Boards games, board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over there, sitting like a prince, is the lovely CEO Vince, who is the head of Lucky Duck Games. Chronicles of Crime, you might have heard this name. We will talk about growing a company and all the people that you need in order to get the game to you, and all the publishing that they do. Board games and publishing board games is what we're talking about. Publishing board games. I'm not going to shout. Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Bez.
And good morning, Sates. It is lovely to see you. And of course, I am Bez. We started calling it bath time because bath time is just a time in your heart. You can take a bath whenever you want, but we are blethering about board games. That is one thing for sure. We are going to be talking about publishing board games with Vincent. Vincent is the head founder of Lucky Duck Games. Started off with Fruit Ninja and Zombie Tsunami, and grew up into basically the powerhouse that's doing all these app-driven games and really pushing the envelope forward in a lot of ways. And so we'll talk about growing up the company, what it means, and why Vince moved to Poland, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk about brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant?
Well, my brilliant thing of the day, I was trying to think of something that we don't think enough and we're not thankful enough. And for me, it's internet, because we all went through a tough pandemic right now. Actually, we're still going through a tough pandemic. And without internet, my company will probably be dead right now, because I was lucky enough that everyone could work from home, and we could not work from home in the way a creative company can work from home without internet. So my little heart to internet, thank you so much for changing our life in a way that is so invisible now. It's just so impermanent to everything we do that it's just...
And it's an interesting thing because when we think about the difference between industries that are improving our quality of life, because board games are, a luxury. And for sure, 500 years ago, maybe people would have just been struggling to get the food to survive, and let alone even dreaming of board games or films or whatever. And so I'm not saying that, there's no point in board games, for sure. I've devoted a lot of time talking about it, but my point is that the internet, it keeps us sane. Do you know what I mean? It allows us that connection, because when you have that divide of, okay, this is the internet for work, this is the internet for entertainment, but even that work can lead to entertainment. It can lead to people making awesome things and getting things. I mean, obviously the delivery, internet shopping, but being able to talk to people, being able to Skype and WhatsApp and all of these things. It's amazing.
I'll tell you what, I've hired at least 2 people that I've still not met. This is the weirdest thing. And because of this pandemic, we have hired an amazing senior project manager. He's based in Warsaw, and he's been working with us for now and I've never met him physically, though I've met him plenty of time over internet. Like we Skype, we see each other. It feels like I know him. I feel like I've met him. I've worked with him almost on a daily basis, yet we've never met physically. How silly is that? And so so I'm grateful for the internet.
But it is quite unreal. And speaking of people that we've never met physically, but we're starting to feel like we're getting to know. Hello, Nicholas, who pops in, and it's lovely to see you as always. And so I invite everyone, not only Vince, to talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So I played a couple of games yesterday with one of my housemates. I played Salad au Pois, known as Point Salad in English.
Yeah.
I feel like, so 2-player, it is so much more strategic than when you get up to 4 or more. I mean, 4, 5, 6, for me, it is just chaos. And I'm not saying it's a worse game, but you've just got to accept that it's chaos. There's going to be a lot more randomness. But with 2 players, it's very much, okay, I'm going to take these things because it stops you having that, and very much about the calculation. And then we played it twice with exactly the same deck because you're only meant to play with a portion of it. And the second time, it's like, okay, now we know a little bit about what's in the deck, so we're able to even plan around these things. And hey, I'm building up my pairs just in case that card comes out, and then Zach steals the fruits just so that that point goes down. There's a lot of nice interplay. And then we also played Couple, which is a word game of my own creation, but Zach did that. It worked fine, but we decided that Zach is more into maths than words. But there you go. Those were some of my recent highlights. That and seeing Chris and getting Chris to do a bunch of photography. So now there's not going to be, if you follow LDEC on Twitter, I'm starting to do marketing this year. Not only does Chris have a photo on every Thursday where it's like, hey, categorical time, what thing can you think of here? But now there's Wibble time on Tuesday, so people can spend maybe 30 seconds thinking of a word and seeing how skillful they are. Well, those are my recent highlights. What have you been up to recently?
So I have played recently an amazing game called Honey Buzz. And it was remarkable in multiple aspects. First of all, so it's by our friends at Elf Creek Games. We actually we are publishing Atlantis Rising, and actually I can share that we're likely to publish this Honey Buzz. To be honest, I was so impressed, absolutely so impressed.
Nice.
First of all, the art is so inviting. There's been a lot of B game out there in the last couple of years. And for some reason, it's just a theme that was just not resonating to me, this whole bee thing. And the way it was treated was very around the bee. And here, they brought back the nature, the trees. There's a lot of greenness around it, and not only just the yellow of the... So very inviting. And then the gameplay itself is very crunchy. And it's funny because it reminds me of this kind of game that looked deceptively easy and inviting, with all this beautiful art, and that... not so much children, but just really inviting, and yet has a lot of crunch inside. There's a lot of like you have some proper puzzles you got to solve and think of. Just like another title we published called Calico, which was like, wow, there's so much going on behind those cute little cats. You're like, you're like, oh, cute little cat game, and then there's so much to go through to try to optimize and maximize your point based on this. Very tactical almost, because you have to really adapt constantly on the flow of what's coming up rather than strategic. And so that's what I've been playing recently, and I've absolutely enjoyed it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And a quick hello to everyone popping in. Morning to Yellow Pigeon, and we've got Jay Foolsguard, who's a lovely person. And I mean, sorry, I don't mean to imply that other people are not lovely, but Cheap Sheep Games from New Zealand says that their recent highlight is finishing a rule book for blind playtesting. So congratulations. And I hope that your blind playtesting goes very well. And so, yes, whatever you're up to, I hope that even if you are not sharing it with us, I hope that you do have, even if you're watching this after the fact, at least one thing that you can be like, yeah, I feel good about that. I got that one thing done, or I enjoyed that part of my day. Because it's not about maybe having an achievement every day. You don't need to do that. That's a bit much. But have something that you at least take some enjoyment in. And so let's move on to a lot of people's favorite point, which is the questionably quick questions. Let's put you in the hot seat. So let's start off. Where exactly are you and what time is it?
So I am in Krakow, Poland, and it's 11 a.m. right now, 11:10 a.m.
What? Where were you born?
I was born in Paris, France, and more specifically in Thiers, which is a 10 kilometers south suburb of Paris, in 41 years ago. Oh, I'm old.
So why did you move to Poland? Let's get it out of the way.
Yeah, it's a good question. I met my wife in Ireland, actually. We lived in the US. She was born in the US, but from two immigrant Polish parents. And after living 30 years in the US, her parents moved back to Poland. And as we were leaving Paris, we moved to Paris. I had another video game company that I was co-founding over there. We were looking at moving to San Francisco again, and our parents were like, before you move to the US forever, far from us, why don't you come for 6 months to Krakow? You can take some time off. And it's been 8 years. This little jump here was became very permanent. And the reason of this permanence is, first of all, the city is absolutely lovely, 700,000 people. So it's just the right size. It has kind of everything, and it's not too big. But the reason we have not left is because I've met absolutely incredibly talented and nice people. And I've traveled. I've been an expat most of my adult life. I've lived in Australia. I lived in Ireland. I've lived in the US. And now Poland. And ultimately, the where you live doesn't matter as much as with who. And you could be in Paris, city of love, and be absolutely miserable. And you could be in Cambodia, in a little village, and be the happiest man because you are with two friends that you love. And so my wife and I have been traveling a lot in our life. And so, but it just turned out we found the right people here. And more specifically, my work helped me find the right people. So it's hard to leave. Actually, I can't see myself ever leaving Poland right now because of the people I found here and I'm working with.
Oh, that's lovely. A quick hello to Alex. It's lovely
Bonjour.
to see you. And Xates was a little bit confused. So you mentioned being born in Paris and then Northern Ireland, and then you moved to...
So actually, I first moved to Australia. I lived 1 year in Australia as a video game programmer. I'm a programmer by trade. I started programming video games at the age of 12 years old. So I've made a lot of video games in my life. After Australia, I moved to Ireland. I stayed there 2 years and a half, met my wife. We moved to the US for another 2 years and a half. I lived in the Silicon Valley and then in first Mountain View and then San Francisco. And then we moved back to Paris for another 3 years. And from Paris, we moved to Poland. And now it's been 8 years we're here. Sadly, my children now speak better Polish than French, which I need to speak French. But no, but I mean, I'm just joking. Actually, for them, having the gift of speaking Polish. Exactly. Anyway, so yeah, that's my journey.
I mean, it sounds like you are not actually fussed about any of this. Going back a little bit, sticking with your childhood, or I don't know when this would be, but what was your first ever paid job?
It's a good question. Wow, that first paid job really marked me and told me, Vincent, you got to stick to programming. My first paid job, I was 17 years old, and I was hired to work at night at Rungis, which is the basically food hub of Paris that works at night to prepare all sort of food for when the Parisian wakes up in the morning and they are sold to restaurants. And I was working in a chain, literally that was cutting porks all night long. So there was those half porks coming frozen. And then we were on a chain of 9 guys. The first one they were slashing, and I was at the end taking the piece of meat and putting it on a balancel for all night long and the smell, everything was just so rough, so rough. I got an elbow, they call it the tennisman issue. And that first job told me, okay, yeah, I want to be a programmer. There's some really tough job out there. And I'm glad I experienced it, but it really 300% say, okay, I want to make video game in my life. This is what I'm going to go for.
So then you went to university and you studied
Yeah,
what?
programming. So actually, it turns out I literally started making video game at the age of 12. I was very lucky to meet my best friend at the age of 13, who was an artist in the making. And the two of us spent pretty much from 5 years, from 15 maybe to 20 years old. I was my mother at the time was putting every weekend my computer in the back of the trunk of our car, driving it place. Can you see me? Oh yeah, here I'm back. And so so at the age of 20, the two of us had programmed over 10 video games. So my city, we're trying to catch up with that. I was just never happy in what I was doing at the university. And I was doing all this just to get a diploma. And my first jobs were all about programming. I went from
well, it seems like, yeah, Vince might have some internet issues. I do remember this happening back in the day on, yeah, about a couple of years ago when we were chatting together. That is a bit of a shame, but maybe I will see. Maybe we can see if Vince can restart things or connect with a wire. I will, in the meantime, not now. Oh, the questions might have been too questionable, although I don't think so. Were the questions too questionable? By the way, someone was... Xates, you said you loved the Dutch flag when I flashed comments, which very much confused me. Was that when there was a bit of blue on the bottom because of... yeah, thingy. So, yeah, I guess if there's a blue on the bottom of the screen, then... Okay, I get it, yep. So that makes sense. I actually had to look up what the Dutch flag even is. Oh, excellent. We've got Vincent's back. I was just saying that hopefully we can make it work. I don't know if you can restart something or potentially...
Am I back? Can you hear me? I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on.
I can definitely hear you.
I'm not sure why I just suddenly was gone. It looks like I had...
Xate was just saying that the lag is quite bad and it was buffering and skipping it, and then...
yeah.
But
hopefully it's better now.
So, whoops, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, and I apologize if internet has been laggy here. Hopefully, this is something of the past.
It's back to good now.
All right.
Cheap Games suggests switching off the audio and pantomime the answers. But in all seriousness, let's carry on and see how we get on. Worst case scenario, if we stop your video, then that might be a possibility. So you can still chat.
Sounds good. I can try.
So we were talking about how you started up your career as a programmer, and then how did you get your first job in the video game industry, or was it back when you mentioned your friend who was an artist? Did that ever become a commercial thing?
So actually, I created my first company at the age of 19 years old with that friends. It was not video game company at the time yet. We didn't know how to sell video game ready, though it was our passion. We started a web agency. It was 2000, 1999, and at the time we're like, well, internet is a thing, so maybe we can make money doing this thing. And even though we both had, technically we're still in school, we decided to create this company and work on it. It's your first company. You're 19 years old. Nothing is going to go right, to be honest. At least nothing went really well there. And we actually gave up after 8 months or 9 months because we got both hired into our first video game company. And it was extremely badly paid, and it was but it was exciting. We were working in a video game company, and unfortunately, this company went bankrupt within, again, 9 months. They were doing poorly financially, which is also why they were paying us so poorly as well. But it was my first experience there, and after that, we kind of this is the moment where we kind of broke apart, the two of us. I went to do my engineer studies and then moved to Australia, and I worked in a video game company in Australia. I was working on the first 3G games. Making the first kind of multiplayer through mobile type of game. That was really exciting time. And then I moved to Australia, started working for big corporation, Microsoft. And this is from this Microsoft standpoint. I was like, you know what? It's make good money, but I think I really want to carve something for myself. And I started to really work late all the time, trying to make other stuff and trying to make stuff for myself. And even though I had a job, and this is where we managed to basically put together with a new friend, which I met in engineer school, is Philippe. We created this game called Goobox, which I was mentioning. I don't know if I cut earlier, but went from 0 to 3 million users in 1 month. And started to make 150,000 euro on a monthly basis overnight. And you were like, what is happening? What have we done? And so this was really the turning point in our life for Philippe and I. This is where I left Microsoft and we moved to San Francisco with my wife. We were married at this point. And this is when I moved to Paris to keep growing this company called Kobojo. It's a company that raised $7.5 million in 2011. We grew it to 100 employees. And obviously, we're 30 years old this time, and we had no freaking idea what we're doing in terms of HR. And so we made every possible mistake in the books on how to grow a company from 30 to 100. And I left in 2012 to move to Poland. And when I moved to Poland, I created a new video game company called Everyday I Play. But this time, with the wisdom of having created 101, and I moved to Poland with this mindset, which is still applying to Lucky Duck today, which is I am not going to make a company obsessed with money. I'm going to make a money obsessed with being a place I want to go work at every day, and hopefully a place there for the people I always enjoy to work at every day. And that was really the starting point of Everyday I Play. A company that created a video game called Vikings Gone Wild, which got very successful for us. This Vikings Gone Wild online game kind of fed the company for almost 4 years, turned into a board game. And this is that board game that leads me to talk to you today, because this is how Lucky Duck was born. And basically after those two major video game company, I transitioned to board game, which if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would making a board game company, what are you talking about? This, I don't know anything about board games. And turns out here I am.
So when Lucky Duck started, was it an imprint of Everyday Play? Was it owned by Everyday Play legally?
Yeah, so technically, actually, Everyday I Play developed Vikings Gone Wild, the board game, and about a month before the Kickstarter, I created a new entity called Lucky Duck Games. Knowing that I may actually kill it right after if the Kickstarter didn't work out, everything I've done in my life has this minimum viable product mindset. It's called the lean startup mindset, which is how can I, with the least effort or the least money, have a viable way to verify if an idea is worth pursuing. And so this Kickstarter was kind of the MVP of Lucky Duck. If it failed, no problem. We hug each other. We tried to make one, and we move on. but it was pretty successful. We made $200,000 on that Kickstarter. And I already had kind of one foot out of the door of Every Day I Play. It's a company that I sold partly to a company based in Israel. And so it was the perfect moment for me to move on and to move to Lucky Duck. The first year and a half was pretty tumultuous and actually pretty difficult for us, because we did go with the idea of taking video games and turn them into board games. It turns out it's a very dangerous and very difficult idea. We signed Fruit Ninja and Zombie Tsunami, and both of those games failed miserably for us.
Now
what we discovered is that
take a pause, because no, I really want to hear more about that, and that's why we have you on. But we do have some. I'm going to put forward the questions from the audience, which is, why is the duck lucky?
It's a good question. Lucky Duck. It's called Lucky Duck Game because at the time we wanted to we wanted to make this company with my brother. My brother is the author of Vikings Gone Wild, the board game. I didn't know where we were going with this, and I've always been considered the lucky guy in the company. And my brother has the largest collection of plastic ducks you can ever imagine, and so he has every possible plastic yellow duck, like of any shape and so this lucky duck kind of came together nicely, because you're a lucky duck when you play a board game, you can be a lucky duck, and yet it was a combo of the two. Even though my brother did not end up being a co-founder, he decided to remain just an author, and this is how the name Lucky Duck was created. And
I mean, when we look at your logo, there's this duck that looks like it's been burnt or something, or it's some crazy demon.
Yes. So I can tell you the story behind this. I went to Mateusz. So my first co-founder was actually Mateusz Komada, with our art director. So we started just the two of us, and I said, Mateusz, Lucky Duck it is. So, but please don't make it cheesy. It's already quite cheesy to be called Lucky Duck. So let's put some hedge here. Like let's do something. And so he came up with this kind of almost fried up duck with 4 teeth. And I like that. I like this kind of this double meaning. Lucky Duck, a bit of a cheesy name, a duck, and yet a duck having a rough time and kind of being grilled on that plot. It's I did a lot of. I think in any creation, having multiple dimension of reading something is something more interesting than triple down on a single meaning or a single dimension of reading. So I like the fact that this name combined to this kind of awkward fried duck has a lot more to tell than just a cute little plastic duck called Lucky Duck.
And yeah. How big is the duck? And would you rather have a tiny meeple-sized duck or a duck-sized meeple?
They're both, I guess. I mean, we turn
you
into.
have to choose one. You can only have one.
I'll take the meeple then.
The duck-sized meeple, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, we don't have any big duck here. Yeah, so that's the story behind that duck.
Okay, well, if anyone else has any silly questions, then I'll close them in maybe 2 minutes. So get your questions in now if you want to ask anything more, and then we'll get a bit more on topic. But yeah, like you designed. Do you consider yourself like more of a technical project manager person than a designer? Because you have designed your own game. You designed Zombie Tsunami. How did that come about?
I really, Zombie Tsunami is really one of those tough initial story of the company. I never meant to be a designer, to be honest, and I ended up being a designer because I had no choice. The Zombie Tsunami was signed in a way that I was not allowed to hire external game designer. It was a weird contract, and basically they wanted to be the one making the game design. They said, "Okay, we'll give you the license, but we are the one making the board game." And the board game that was submitted to us wasn't great. It wasn't great, and so I had to put myself into this. I can't say that I really succeeded best, and I can definitely tell you that I'm not a game designer for sure. I think that my strength is rather to pull people together, to find. I am kind of this multi-hat guy that can kind of do it all just enough for us to grow to a point where I can hire someone to do it properly. So I've had every hat possible in this company, from business development, localization manager to project manager to. There's one hard thing that I cannot do, which is art. I'm not an artist, so that's why the first person that I hired for Lucky Duck was an art director, because I knew, as much as I understand marketing, I really can't do art, and I need art. And but yeah, so I think as just me, Vincent, as an individual, I think my strengths has been to be able to identify really talented people and give them the space to blossom, to do what they do well, and to try to keep a focused direction for the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like the notion of, okay, you can do it well enough to get started, but then you hire someone better. People want to know, would you rather be a shark or a pigeon, only for one day?
Pigeon, 100%.
Pigeon. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not so much about the versus the shark. It's just I love the idea of flying. I just love the idea of freedom, but I actually, people call me a social butterfly. So you see, there's already, and I like it, and there's already the flying aspect of the butterfly that goes from one person to another. So yeah, so definitely a pigeon.
And finally, people want to know, have you ever played Fun Wars?
Oh, every day with my son and my daughter. They love it. They're pretty damn good. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare some war. Anyway.
5, 6, 7, 8. I forgot the rhyme.
I didn't know there was
1, 2, 3, 4. I have won the Fun War. 5, 6,
at 4,
7.
it's some war. That's it. We're on.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, at the end, once you grab the other person, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I have won the Fun War.
Aha, fair enough. We never said that. Okay, Sam.
But who normally wins? Are you normally the loser? Are your thumbs just not
it's a fair, okay, I would say 60 for me, 40 for them. So I have the winning streak, but this is a real competition. Let me tell you, those kids, they they have played too many times. Yeah, it's great, by the way. You're showing picture of my team, and if there's, because it's me now chatting, but really, Lucky Duck is just so much more than me right now. We're 27 people full time, and I have never been so proud of the people I work with these days. So thank you for sharing their picture right now, because they are often the silent heroes behind what's happening, and few people see the human dimension, and the number of people involved in what we do today, and the extent of the specialty that we all have in the company. So,
well, let's. Apparently, Alex has a 4-year-old who just cheats. I mean, at 4, maybe. I don't know. You decide. I'm not going to get involved in your politics, Alex. You do that. So let's finish up by asking you, what is a typical day recently in the past few weeks?
In the past few weeks, my kids are at home. So today I broke away from home to be in the office to do this quietly, so that I don't have a child jumping on my chest while chatting with you. But the last few weeks has been it's challenging, because we have 3 children, so it keeps us quite on our toe with all of them. 1 is 4 months old, and 2 are remote schooling, so there's a lot of stuff. But putting the kids aside, it's just a lot of emails, a lot of online meeting, discussing the future, working on fulfillment. Right now, we're fulfilling over 20, I think it's 25,000 games. It's completely mind-blowing. So it's 2 massive campaign, Kingdom Rush and Chronicles of Crime, that are being fulfilled or about to fulfill right now. Chronicles of Crime being fulfilled right now, and that was a 12K backer game with each backer. Some of them get 6 items that are like 7 kilo each, and Kingdom Rush, which is coming, which is even bigger in terms of not so much the backers, where I think there are 13,000 backers here, but the volume of the game is absolutely insane. I don't know what the heck we're thinking about with Kingdom Rush. The box at the end is a 16 centimeter high box, which is so big. It's still a 30 by 30, so it fits in everybody's Kallax. You know, I have a Kallax. It has to fit in the Kallax. But yeah, 16 centimeter is this monster box. And so it's just a lot of volume. It's a lot of backers. When we do this, and so that's been occupying a lot of my time recently, because I've been helping the team taking care of this, because it's so unusually high, the volume of this, that I needed to come in and help them, because we couldn't hire someone else to just do logistics for 2 months. And so we ship all the stuff in local hubs. So we have games in Australia, in the USA, in Poland, in Germany, in France, and in Canada. And so from all those hubs, they all have different file format that we need to export things to. We need to make sure that we break down all the backers for those locations. We needed to preemptively send those games ahead of time so that they could buy boxes. Cartons right now is hard to get by. It's Christmas, so the period is even worse. Anyway, so that's what is a typical day. Besides, obviously, looking at the future, there is a lot of introspective time right now. At the end of every year, we like to have reflective time. So we had a big meeting yesterday, and so I'm meeting by group of 7 people, 7 employees, and we talk about what happened this year and where we want to go together next year. I genuinely believe into bringing everyone in the company, no matter what you do, and put them on board with the vision of who we want to be moving forward based on what happened this year. And so, yeah, so that's what I do these days.
No, that sounds brilliant, and I love the idea of making sure that everyone's on board. I was thinking about this recently with Janice when we were talking about agile game design and looking at those initial statements from the original websites, where it's about giving people the support and the environment that they need. And so I think that getting everyone on board and allowing people to feel empowered, and how you are able to work as a boss. And quickly, hello to Matthew. It's lovely to have you join us. It's actually talking about Matthew, because you're both working in kind of narrative fields quite a bit recently. But thank you for sharing that. And of course, this is a point where I say, feel free to comment, ask questions, follow, all that stuff. And if you are new here, if you've not already joined it, do join my stuffmybeds.com/Discord, where you can talk more about this or other topics. And there's also a cat chat where you can share pictures of your cats. But let's get stuck into it. So publishing, it's just ultimately you've made the game, you've done the artwork, and then publishing is kind of like the management of all of that and management of the fulfillments. Like, it almost feels like publishing is the project management. If we have to say, okay, you can outsource the fulfillment, you can outsource the design, you can outsource anything, but it's the project management that has to be done. Like, how would you define publishing, or is that
so publishing is definitely, for me, it's almost it's such a multidisciplinary job that it's really rare for it to be well done as a one-man job. Honestly, I don't think you can be a one-man publisher, though there are some that have this genius, and I respect them. So in my view, publishing is, first of all, being able to identify the right title, because you're going to invest a lot of money on something, and so you better find a title that you believe in, that you love, that you're going to put your trips on, or if you're not the one, that your team is going to love and is going to be helping developing. There is a part of development to publishing that is important, right? Because you need to shape that initial idea, or actually this very advanced prototype, into something that is a product at the end. So it's often the question we talk the most internally are usability, readability, enjoyability, and all these things that comes to the pre-creation. And then there is obviously manufacturing. It took us really, the first 2.5 years was really tough on manufacturing. It takes a lot of time to really understand how this manufacturer works, so that the input you give them is really aligned to the way they work, and it's not intuitive. Also, it takes a lot of time to identify the right manufacturer. And you tend to go for cheap stuff, right? You're like, hey, life is hard right now, so this one is cheaper, I'll go for it. And often cheap with the wrong people can be disastrous. One of the toughest projects we've had, the most disastrous project in management, was Jetpack Joe, right? We work with a company that I will shy away the name. I will not tell you the name. A Chinese manufacturer that was absolutely horrendous. And what I've discovered working in manufacturing is that it's not so much the factory itself. It's that project manager you get on the manufacturing side. That project manager means day and night. Because in fairness, all manufacturers pretty much have the same machine. There's not 100 offset machine out there. There's not 100 type of... So the way it's done, it's the same sausage factory, you know, and it's all the way. But it's the way this Chinese manufacturer, or the Polish, we manufacture quite a lot in Poland right now. It's the way this is handled by them, and the communication we have with them. And so right now we are 4.5 years old, and we have really matured this relationship. We know what we're doing. There is less and less issues, if almost none. I mean, there's always human error left and right, obviously, that pops here and there, but not having dramatic issue with... I'll just tell you the story of Jetpack Joe, right? This because it's really just one of those, like, you wanna just crawl into a curl into. So we sign, this manufacturer make a sign that we want. I think the number was crazy, 170,000 piece of yellow plastic. The game is, you have this transparent yellow plastic that have 10 different shape, or 5 different shape in 10 pieces. And we agree on the color, we agree on everything. Yeah, here we go, yes. We signed the paper that shows a picture. There's a picture with the right color, we signed it. And then we receive the final proof, and it's orange. And we're like, what do you mean it's orange? Wait, we signed a paper, it's yellow, it's on the picture. And the person there said, oh, but I thought you changed your mind and we made it orange. I'm like, what? No, we never said that. What do you? And in fact, we add some orange for an expansion. And this lady, unfortunately, thought that the orange we did for expansion was for that. So she printed 170,000 pieces of orange plastic where it should have been yellow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the kind of thing. And it was just miscommunication. It's just human communication in the middle. It's just poorly done. And so, but anyway, but that's the thing. Then there's logistic. Once things are done and the game is the way you want it, logistic can be quite troublesome. And this winter, we went through the biggest change of our life. We have had over 30 containers coming from China in the last 2 months. It's insane, the volume of things we brought apart. Just because of Chronicles of Crime, Kingdom Rush, we can put only 3,600 game in one container. The game is so big that we put just the base game forced us to make an insane amount of container. And so the problem is that you have this variety of custom. We brought games in so many different countries, Germany, Poland, France, and so each port has its own challenge. The port that we come in Poland, we have no issue with. For example, Germany right now, we have a French container of Kingdom Rush that is stuck there, and it's deadlock. And I won't go into detail. So this is quite challenging still, that the publisher has to deal with this. And then there is marketing. And I would say, honestly, it's something that I've learned the hard way from the beginning of video games, is that as much as we enjoy the creative aspect of video game, and the fact that anybody can upload something on an app store and can avoid all the stuff that I just talked about right now, which is manufacturing and logistics. When you do video game, it's all digital. they still have half of the time that is about marketing and communication and sales. And often a lot of independent creators just fall in love with the creative process, but do not understand that if they want to put something in the App Store, therefore they are a publisher. They are not only a creator, they are their own publisher, and they really need to work on this. And so this is a big work from us. This is something we take very seriously. Again, it's something that took us years to understand. We were pretty good at Kickstarter from the beginning, but we sucked at retail release because we just didn't put the same effort that we had for Kickstarter. Kickstarter, we all making all this jazz and all this noise, and there's all those reviewer and this. But then the game will arrive in retail, and we will forget to do this again. Basically, hey, yeah, but we need to do it again. We need to start again, and as a smaller company or as an individual, it's actually, you can be tired of it. It's hard to understand if you're not a creator, but you can be tired of your own game. You can be tired of rehearsing and talking again, even though it's been a year and a half, you're talking, you feel like you need to talk about it again and re-explain again this game and what it is. And so it can be tiresome, but it has to be done. And so we put so much effort and so much money into magazine advertisement, online advertisement, reviewer copy, reviewer relationship and management. What we do is that we airship. It's very expensive. We airship at least 24 copies in each region. So 24 copies in France, for example, the French release. And so that we start to have reviews about a month before the game arrived to retail. And those copies are like so expensive just because of the airship from China that, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's just part of like, you cannot be greedy when it comes to publishing. You really have to put your dollars on the table. You have to get your game out there. You have to do this investment because it really pans out. And I have one example I'll give you. One game we kind of, just because of the scale of 2019, I forgot, and because also I didn't have the team we have right now, we didn't have the revenue we have now, so we're much smaller, and I was still doing a thing. I forgot to send reviewer copy of Welcome to Review, the second expansion of Chronicles of Crime, actually. We did it well for Noir, and Noir went very well. And Welcome to Review, because it was an October, November release, I don't know, I just completely forgot. It's just, there's so much going on. And we're in January, February, and we're chatting with our French distributor, and we're looking at the number of the second expansion. We're like, what happened there? Like, why are we not selling? He said, I don't know. Noir did very well, but this one is not. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We didn't do anything on this game. We didn't send a single review copy. And it was insane. That one single game where was the one where all the game had normal sales. This one was completely neutralized. Really, like one-on-one, show me that there is a direct correlation, even though we forget because it's so intrinsic to what we do now, that yeah, if you don't go to this pushing and sending those reviewer copy and really be active. And at the end of the day, even sometimes sending 70, 80 reviewer copy. We did this for Tongue Garden. We sent over 70 reviewer copy. It matters because and if you don't make it, it doesn't work. So it really goes up to that stage, actually. And for us, it's even further, which is the distribution. And again, it was this lesson from video game. I have this long tirade, but I'm almost done. But again, it's something really completely missed by young entrepreneurs or creators, is that you really have to hustle to get into distribution. And I'll tell you how we got there. My first SN, we have only Vikings Gone Wild. I printed an extra 7,000 Vikings Gone Wild, and I'm like, what the heck have I done? I have no pre-order. This game is supposed to retail release in January, and there is SN, and I'm like, okay, I sent email. Nobody replied to any of my emails. So what I did, literally 3 days before I found the website of everybody. I found phone numbers, and I gave phone calls. I was like, hey, hi, I'm a publisher. I would like to talk to your buying department, please. Sure, hold on, sir. And then boom, I'm starting to talk to a guy called John in Asmodee UK. I'm talking to a guy called Eric in Asmodee. And they are so taken shortly that a publisher called them. They're like, oh, yeah, I mean, you sure? I'll get there. Well, it's pretty packed, but okay, let me check. All right, and I managed to organize this 3 days before an actual meeting with every major distributors in Europe, and some of those US distributors would flow over. And at the end of this first
What do you
lesson,
say 3 days before? So was this like on the Monday? I mean, these
I mean,
people are
this is,
probably
yeah, that was just
already
insanity. I was like,
in Germany.
yeah, I mean, this was crazy, right? But my first SN was not done demoing my game. It was done meeting distributor. You need to meet those people. You need to create this one-on-one connection. Nobody is going to buy your game if you don't create this. And so there was, and for me, really, the word hustling is right. This is what it is, right? At this point, taking your phone call and getting out of your comfort zone of like, oh, people will like my game, they will buy it, and really going out there and building this relationship. And ultimately, so that's how far it could get me, Vincent. And, this starting side. But things got really exploded for us once I hired Anthony Boyd. He's based in the US. Actually, he's our full-time employee in the US, and he used to be the sales director for Ninja Division, which unfortunately had some troubles. I would say maybe fortunately for me, because I managed to bring Anthony on me, and since he arrived, he had connection to distributor in the US that even through a phone call I couldn't get. And so talking ACD, Alliance, all the biggest one. And so since he has arrived, a month later, we opened distribution. And so right now, in English-speaking countries, we sell our games in US, Canada, UK, Nordic countries, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore, and some Germany and Greece for our English games. And it's over 25 distributor partner that we work with constantly, that we ship game to constantly, and that we had to pull together this purchase order shipping invoicing system, so that we don't lose track of any of this, that we get all this sales order in, that we don't forget to invoice people, that we don't forget to ship this thing. At the beginning, it was a dirty Excel sheet that just got lost every time. So we finally had to buy the right software and to put this together. So yeah, and that's the conclusion, right? There's so much. It's so multidisciplinary. It's pretty crazy. And we're lucky enough that at this point, I have a specialized person to all the segments. I have Polish, French, and English sales director who talk to the distributors. I have a director of logistics who does only logistics full-time, and God knows he's busy. We have full-time support, and then we have this very large team of a creative team.
Yeah, that's a really good. I'm not going to call it a summary, but overview, I guess, of everything that's involved, and for sure. Yeah, choosing that game, what are you going to actually spend your time and energy on? And then, you've got to oversee it. And I know what you mean about people fall in love with the creative process. And I would love for people to just say, oh, you know what? In a bind, that's a great game, and buy it. But then it takes Gigamic to, publish it and call it Yogi. And then they've got like a massive stand at Essen, and it's an interesting thing because in France and even at Essen, I know that they're not making money. That's just purely advertising. That's just spending money on a party on, I think it's Friday nights they have their party normally.
Yeah.
It's been like a year and a bit since I went, because Essen didn't. But anyway, so it's like, and they got this like. Did you see the wrestling ring that they had for me? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it.
They had an actual wrestling ring. So like for Yogi, it was like a wrestling ring with kind of ropes on the outside. And then you have to go step up the steps, go into the wrestling ring, and then you sort of have a tiny table in the middle where you play Yogi and Yogi Guru.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Like people see that and it's like, wow, that's like a big thing. Or they have those things of Corridor, and it's like, not just the big version, but the giant version that they don't even sell. It's only for the conventions. And having this marketing, telling people about it, this is, and so I agree. But it kind of feels like it's all about that overview, and it's kind of all about establishing those relationships. And you've touched upon this quite a bit, but I mean, why are so many people involved in bringing a game to you? Is it just because everyone needs to specialize And the more people that you have, the more stuff you can get done and the bigger scale you can do. Because at this point, you've got, how many full-time employees do you have?
So yeah, we're 27 people full-time right now.
Okay.
And 15 of them are what we call Lucky Duck Studio, which is an entire different subject from being a publisher. As a matter of fact, because we're specialized in hybrid narrative game, and we couldn't find author, or not enough at least, or who could bring to us hybrid narrative games, then I invested into putting together, we have 3 full-time writers, 2 full-time game designers, creative director, art director, project manager, and then we have 2 full-time graphic designer, 2 full-time illustrators, a manufacturing manager. And I think that's about it. And a playtesting manager. We have a full-time playtesting manager because we have so much going on right now that playtest was just not, had to be streamed down to someone who would just organize. There's so many meetup, and with COVID, it's even harder. So we have a full-time person, actually 1.5. Actually, right now we have even 2 playtesting manager, but that second person is just for 3 months. Just we needed help right now to finish the Destinies. So but yeah, that's the one part, and then the others is down to logistic support. I'm forgetting, but yeah. Oh, and we haven't talked about marketing. Because I have as in marketing in the US, I have a French marketing manager and there is another thing we do which we haven't touched upon, which has been a great diversification of revenue for us, which is we do a lot of localization. So we sell our own game to countries where we don't sell ourselves. So we sell our stuff in English, French, and Polish. But for example, Italian, Spanish, China, etc. We work with local partners, and so we got so good at this that we help other publishers do this. For example, we are the kind of a publishing agent for Skybound games. So at Grim Forest, Grim Masquerade, Tribal Trolley, all these games, we have helped them sell large quantity to partners.
All around the world, and helping them localize it and meet up with those distribution partners.
Exactly, yeah. So actually, it's not so much distribution here, it's really localization. So sometimes it's a publisher who buys it and kind of just translate it and put it under his name and sell it himself to a local distributor. There is a variety of things here, but yeah, so this is, there's quite a bit of activity on that side as well. And for a publisher like us, it's quite important because it's a cash-free activity that actually generates cash rather than spending it. One of the hardest part of a publisher, which is the unspoken truth, because a lot of them, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't want to talk about money and your money struggle. But one of the hardest part of the growth of a publisher is cash flow management. We are in a business where you need to invest this cash sometimes 6 months beforehand, and it's gone off your bank account. For manufacturing, it has to get on a boat, it has to pass custom, it has to get on the stuff, and then if you're lucky, you get some order from those. But if you're not, it's still sitting in a warehouse, and you're already getting the juice of your investment from a retail sales perspective, sometimes 6-8 months later. And so it creates those cycle of cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out, that even though you may be cash flow positive and maybe even earning money, you may not see it in your bank account because you have so much investment done for 2021 that you will not see the fruit of that margin later on. That it's a lot of this there is this extra complexity here. And we were lucky. I really think we're lucky. We managed to have, as a company, a very healthy legs of revenue from retail distribution, B2C sales through Kickstarter, and a wonderful community of people who follow us we have, and then this localization, which is actually quite substantial for us in terms of revenue. And it meant that during COVID, and so thanks to that, it creates us enough cash that we can do this investment without putting the company too much at risk. But this is new for us, huh? Like anybody else, for the first 3 years, it was a very, very tough, sometimes stressful. As a CEO and owner looking at the banking, I was like, wow, what are we going to do now? We really need to hold your breath from a cash perspective for the next 2 months until this revenue comes back, and really hope things works out. I mean, sometimes those are really, really tough cash bets. So, yeah. Sorry, I diverted in so many conversations.
No.
I'm so sorry. I'm chatty.
No, I'm enjoying it. It's a great conversation, and you're coming up with brilliant info. I mean, honestly, I think that's why we've turned this from a 1 hour show into a 2 hour show, because, you know, people like yourself come here with all these amazing insights. And yeah, we had questions from Cheap Sheep Games about getting those distributors to sign up in those early days. It sounded like it was all about that phoning at Essen.
Yeah, so it was a bit more than that. So I would say I really compare the very early stage of Lucky Duck as growth hacking. The advantage is when you have one game, you can really be focused. It's only this one game. And I think things get more complicated when you have 2 or 3, honestly. But I felt the first one was easier because it was Vikings Gone Wild. And I could put everything about Vikings Gone Wild. And so besides contacting those people, I also had to prove them that this game was worthy of them to buy cash from me. So there was at the same time a lot of, like asking my backer, hey, please, if you like what I'm doing here, please come on BGG and please give us a fair rating. Obviously, if you didn't like it, go ahead, rate it. But if you enjoy the hard labor that I've put here, please, and so we were lucky that in the early stage we got a seal of excellence of Tom Vasel, which was a huge people for us. This seal of excellence, and I often meet Tom Vasel, and I keep saying, Tom, I am forever grateful for that seal of excellence. I'm sure you meant it, but without it, the day I got the seal of excellence, I remember we were actually, I think the retail release was February 2017. And so we're in mid-January, and that's where we get this. And we're mid-January, and I still don't have a single purchase order. It's not even, I met those guys, it's established. I can call one John and one Eric. I have his email, he replies to me email, but I still don't have a single. And then I get the seal of excellence, and I email them, everybody, this seal of excellence, this is going to be big. This game, look at it, 8.0 on BGG, seal of excellence. This is a winner we have in our hand here. Don't wait because I have limited stock. I mean, you got to get there. You got to be convinceful. It's a bit of at this point, it's so survivalist in a way that you really have to pull some car salesman kind of trick, like, I only have 2,000 in Europe. I mean, this is true though, but you have to amplify all this fact and then within 2 days, everybody ordered from me. Everybody ordered, and I sold out of my US container before the container even arrived to the US on my first game. But it was all this combination of meeting those people, creating this relationship, but yet it was not enough. I still had to prove, demonstrate, make this proactive, emailing a little bit, not aggressive, but like hustling, like, hey, I'm gonna get out there. You didn't see it, maybe hey, here is the seal of excellence. This is worthy of your time, where are you at on your pre-orders? Because, oh man, this is going fast. I got already this guy going 200 and 300 and 300. And what do you want to sell? I don't have any more left. So yeah, so there is a little bit of that.
So, you talk about Chronicles of Crime getting the seal of excellence, but so what's about the games that came before that with Fruit Ninja and Zombie Tsunami?
So our first game was Vikings Gone Wild, and this one got a seal of excellence.
Okay.
Zombie Tsunami and Fruit Ninja were both failed. They failed in every possible dimension. I mean, and I appreciate them. I appreciate those failures. They were a very strong inflection point for me and for the company to reflect upon why did we fail so hard in 2017. And I have to say, end of 2017, the situation was pretty dire for Lucky Duck. We almost died there. And the reason why we failed was multiple things. I was not a game designer. I was signing some game design. I did not know how to game develop them. I had this hunch on marketing, and I had this big thinking that I'm going to reproduce what worked for Vikings Gone Wild, taking a video game and turning into board games, and it's going to be easy. It's going to be that simple, right? And so we fell from the game design point of view, but we also fell from the IP point of view. What we discovered with those IP is that we we looked for the most downloaded IP. Fruit Ninja was 1.5 billion download. I was like, this is gold. That's it. 1.5 billion people know Fruit Ninja. They will want the board game for their children. It turns out that was completely wrong, because what matters more than download is called retention. And retention in video game is how many consecutive days, months, or years sometimes that someone engaged with a video game. And this is a much more important metric, because you can have 1.5 billion people who see this sign as they drive to work and forgetting 30 seconds later, and only have, 10,000 people who actually engage with the board every day and see it and analyze it and those people, they will remember. And actually, at the end of the day, having a small pool of extremely emotionally engaged people is much more important than having a big pool of people who have no memory of it. And this is exactly where we fell on the IP side of those two titles. So between 300 million download and the other one, 1.5 billion download, I'm not going to share the data itself, but basically they were not great on that part. And the ultimate accumulation of this understanding and all those failure, those were painful failure, they led to Kingdom Rush. And when we took Kingdom Rush, first of all, it was 3 mobile game. They were not free to play, they were paid games. And there was a 4th one in the making, which actually released about 2-3 months before the Kickstarter itself. And those for me was a better metric. And to be honest, I think overall it was 40 million downloads. So 40 million compared to 1.5 billion, you're like, it's still 40 million. It's not bad, right? But it's way less. But these people, and me included, as a matter of fact, I have played so many hours of Kingdom Rush. I'm still, I can see the screen. And I could relate to their love of it, where I could actually technically not relate on Fruit Ninja. I actually never played Fruit Ninja for the same way that nobody did, because, so it really shows that sometimes what seems to be a good idea is a terrible one. Yet those are great learning. If the company can survive financially those mistakes, which we got lucky to did, then it led to much better decision points. And so at the end of 2017, this is when I hired Philip Nowinski. He is the author of CV. He's the author of so many amazing board games. And it was that reflection. I was like, okay, Fruit Ninja just failed because wrong IP, but also because I need someone who knows what he's doing. If I really want to become a publisher, I need a creative director that can really come up with 15 years of making board games, developing board games, and has all this knowledge. And that was Philip. And it was probably one of the best hires I've ever done. Ever since after that, everything we did has succeeded. The next game we released through Philip was Chronicles of Crime. We did Paranormal Detective. Actually, we were talking about Jetpack Joyride. And basically, though obviously the entertainment industry, which is the more global way to look at board game in the same category of video games or movies, you make a good movie, you make a bad movie, you make a good movie, you make a bad movie. There's so many dimensions to a success that's not only game design related. But I can tell you that from the point Philip arrived, I am super proud of every game design we've published, even though some may have failed because it had the wrong art, the wrong moment, or the wrong audience, or the wrong mashup. That was the pivotal point. And so 2018 was a big rebirth with those changes and those learnings here.
No, well done. And so it sounds like I got it slightly wrong in that it was Vikings Gone Wild that got this seal of excellence, and it was because you started out of the gate with a really good game that this big name reviewer said, hey, this is good. And then you've got that validation from them, people thinking, hey, if that person says it's good, it must be good. And on a very much lower scale, I saw something, when Rado reviewed Couple, to say, hey, I don't like any of the other games for the L deck. I don't like Wibble. I don't like party games. I don't like silly little games. But this one, I really like this. And this is definitely a game that we will continue playing, me and Jen. And so then when that came out, I'm not going to say it shots up into the multiple thousands but there were I'm going to say 20 people who bought it from me on my website the next week, and I was like, oh wow, that's definitely noticeable just based on this one review. And it's people heard that, from like this game that they previously had no awareness of, and to say, hey, this is a really cool thing. I mean, it's when you're talking about marketing, I did want to step back and ask about how long you work on something. I mean, at this point, I get the impression that you're going to leave certain games, possibly Zombie Tsunami and Fruit Ninja, you might kind of leave in your history, but some of your games, like Jetpack Joyrides, like how long, and Vikings Gone Wild, are you going to continue? How long do you continue supporting them? Are you going to carry on marketing them for ever?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you do everything you can. You put all the chips on the tables, and you see what stays on the table and what falls, right? And it's all about sales, right? No, so I mean, there's so much you can put energy out there, and if sales don't derivate from it, then you just have to call it, that it's over, and it's absolutely okay. Again, I really, it's something that I've accepted a long time ago through the video game industry. The video game industry, actually specifically the industry that I came, which is the free-to-play mobile game industry, as a way to identify failure before you can even release. What we do is we work 6 months on a prototype, and then what we do is called a soft launch, where basically we release the game in a single country on an app store. We don't have, and we just put a small bulb of advertisement to bring a cohort of like 1,000, 2,000 players, and we see how they behave in the game. They see if they stick, if they come back every day. We check retention, we check not so much monetization yet. It's not so much about making money, but the most one is retention. Do people like it, and do they come back? And if retention is not here, it means that you don't have a game, and therefore it's better to not release it and to stop spending resources on the air and just take your creative energy towards something else, call it a day, hug each other, say, hey, we tried, it didn't work, it's okay. Let's keep our resources to try to make something else that works, rather than digging a hole of ourselves on that thing that just simply doesn't seem to resonate. So obviously in board game, we don't have this soft launch. You can't do, you can't just print, a small batch and so. However, Kickstarters are generally a great way pre-retail to tell us if we have any chance to succeed. For example, one game that we saw will not do well in retail was Mutant, which was also a video game IP, and this one fell for a different reason. Its retention was actually pretty good. The subject and the theme was too teenagery. It was just basically robo mutants fighting each other in an area. I mean, there's just no way my wife is going to approach this. A lot of my friends were like, I don't know about the theme. The game was so good, so good. Sanfong and Jesse put together something that for me was a revolution, to an incredible twist to the deck buildings, because basically the way it works that everybody has an asymmetric pool to buy from. It was so cool, but people had to go past the shitty theme apparently to get to discover that. And you see, this is how you can get a product that that fails just because of publishing issue, because the publisher just had this cool IP which he liked the art and didn't think to wonder if enough people would like the art or the theme. And so the Kickstarter did $90,000, which for a lot of creators sounds like a lot. For us, given the amount of money and energy we put in it, we knew $90,000 was bad. And I printed only 1,000 copies of each for each country. And I did well because the game has not sold, and we're not going to continue supporting Mutants, which is very sad because the game itself is amazing. And we have been considering maybe retheming it with something more approachable, and that we'll be talking, but it's just a lot of effort. So it's still in the back burner. We may do it, but it's not there. And so Jetpack Joyride is also another one that we're not going to continue supporting. The game simply just didn't find his cohort, and maybe because the channel where we sell our game are board game store, and not maybe this is a game that should have been in a much wider distribution area, which we don't have access yet as a company, as a publisher. So and so both Mutant and Jetpack are the two games from 2019 that we're not going to continue supporting in 2021, and that we want to reprint.
And hello, Paul, who
popped
into chat a couple of minutes ago and says that I guess Paul has played this game from Vincent Vergonjeanne, J. Come here.
Yeah. Oh no,
But
it's JC. It's not Jacob here. It's Sengfong was with another partner here, JC Wright.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
I thought you said JC. So that's why I thought you
yeah,
were
okay.
abbreviating Cormier to C.
I see. It's my bad. I'm still French, Bez, so bear with my accent. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. But yeah, Scott mentions a bunch of different approaches, and I know that Paul's talked about the difference between French approaches to rule books, where you're a bit laissez-faire, and in German, okay, it's a bit more precise. It's true. Do you think that there is a big difference, a cultural difference in Poland to other countries, or do you think because there's not a lot of publishing going on? I mean, is it just based on the differences between the people at the heads of the companies?
Sorry, but on what level this cultural difference are you talking about? Because I can talk about food, and there's definitely big, but I'm not sure which part of the cultural difference you're mentioning.
I was meaning the cultural differences in publishing, because like the cultural differences in how contracts are negotiated and how rule books are written.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Actually, there are some. And actually, in a way, the Polish company work in a healthier way than other companies that I've seen, and I'll tell you why. Poland has, I would say, at least a cost of life and therefore of paycheck at least 30%, if not 50% lower than a lot of other European countries. Yet, price of manufacture of board game from China is the price of manufacturing from China. So the price is the price. So this is, if a game is $50 in the US, it has technically to be $50 in Poland, and therefore it becomes really a luxurious item. So the publisher here in Poland really had to be inventive. They really had to be extremely creative to be able to sell the board game. And first of all, a lot of companies do have time 5 on their on the manufacturing cost. Most Polish companies do a time 4 that eats their margin, and so there is a lot of the way we have done things. So we have printed a lot in Poland, and when you need to print in Poland, for example, you think a lot more about the component that are language independent or not. And you're trying to have as many language independent components so that you can print as many of the same sheet at the same time, trying to really catch prices. And so there's a lot of influence in the way the games are conceived, so that it's as language independent as possible, so that it's as scalable as possible when you signed other partners. I think that's also, there is this cultural hunger from Polish people here. There are some extremely smart people here. And there is this hunger to get out of this level of cost of life. And actually, there's some amazing opportunities for them. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of successful Polish publishers here. Portal Games, Awaken Realms. Actually, if there is any, like, Awaken Realms is even above most of the company. I would say even above Simon when it comes to purely Kickstarter. There is Board and Dice. There is a lot of really good creative people that have managed to grow beyond just the local market of selling to Polish people. And all I find at the end of the day is smart people, extremely creative, extremely pushed to go beyond just what can be done here locally in Poland, and the scope of what the Polish market has to offer, and the synergy is contagious, I think, and I see this internally.
I mean, I think that, like, Paul's suggesting that it's all based on the person in charge. That I think it's undeniable to say that the people in charge are going to make a big difference. And when you're someone who's lived in so many countries as you have yourself, France, Australia, Ireland, it's going to be natural that you're going to come up with a slightly different approach to things than Shevacek, for example. And the fact that your approach is slightly different might then, it's informed by everything in our upbringing. everything in our culture. And for sure, if there's 100 people that were based in New York and they lived a very similar life, they would go. I guess what I'm suggesting is that culture has a big impact, but maybe only so much.
I would agree with that. You're right. Ultimately, a company acts in the way its leader wants it to act. One thing that I'm though fighting, and this time that it has nothing to do with the company itself, but like really cultural behavior, is that I put a lot of effort to remind everybody constantly and to energize this outcome from people, to say them, hey, we're not, all of us have in our hand the future of this company. And it comes down to voicing yourself up. Even if someone in the company tells you, hey, can we do this? And you find this weird or not qualitative enough, rather than just passively taking it because you think it's my job and someone else has made this decision for me, just ask the question, but why? Why are we doing this? And I really think that company that strives push everyone in the company to think this way critically on every edges, and not to work on a pyramidal kind of way that someone told me to do this, then therefore I'm doing it. I don't know why they asked me, but I'll do it, and it will be what it will be. And I think this is a mentality you can have when you work as a company, as a service, making a game for someone else maybe. But when you make your own game here, well, there's excellence come from this level of individual self-criticism towards what I am in my hand, and having the safety, having the feeling that it is safe for me to voice myself up, because I will not be like, what are you doing, criticizing the boss or whatever. And better, actually, you'll be encouraged, say, oh, thank you so much for pointing at this. And how can we let this go? Thank you so much for showing this to us. And so it takes a lot of time to brew this. People generally tend actually bruised up. They come scared. Unfortunately, a lot of the people tend to not feel safe. And so it takes a lot of reaffirming in words and in action that, yes, we welcome failure and we welcome self-criticism, because this is the only way for us to strive and to really reach excellence.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong set of values. Criticizing as much as you can, not from a place of, hey, this is rubbish and that's it, but from a, really digging down deep and analyzing what went wrong and what potentially could have been better and how things could maybe have been changed. Because, nothing is perfect, but we can always strive to do a bit better the next time. And again, it doesn't have to be that inexorable climb towards excellence. We're going to have some dips along the way. But yeah, for sure, we need to be introspective and critical in ourselves in order to do things of value.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, I imagine a lot of people will already know the basics, but what path might a game take from concept to getting to someone? And let's talk about Chronicles of Crime from David. Sorry, can you remind? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. How did we sign this game, and how it went from signing to become the game it is today?
Yep.
So David contacted me. I met with him at Cannes Festival in 2016, and we met just briefly there. He was telling me he had a prototype that I tried that was not hybrid at the time. And in 2017, we finally released Vikings Gone Wild. We have one game out, and he says, Vincent, I really want to show you this board game that uses an app. And a little fact that few people know is that actually I invested into a hybrid board game company in 2014, and this company fell miserably. At the time, I was not involved at all inside of it. I was just a business angel. Though I've learned so much, I didn't realize at the time that this investment and this failure would actually be a great stepping stone for me to learn from it, and that it was actually, in fact, money well spent. And so, but when it comes to me, I'm like, hybrid game. I've been there. I've invested. You know what? I don't think it's for me. And he finally corners me after dinner and said, Vincent, 10 minutes. I said, all right, let's play a game. He shows me his game, and in 10 minutes, I am like, wow, what is that? And what he showed me at the time is literally a little card game. It's a tiny little card game with its QR code. It's like a really trashy early prototype that had literally no visual soul at all. It was a bunch of copy-paste of photos from the internet. Yet, even though it was visually absolutely unwelcoming, the promise and the intrigue and the narration and all this stuff was like, we're so stuck in it. And then he pulled the VR and like, oh my gosh, David. And there is a lot of back and forth because, as a matter of fact, almost everybody wanted to do this game after. I agree with you, Valkyrie. And so what happened is that Matago was on it, Asmodee was on it, almost everybody over there was on it, but none of them wanted to do the video game part. They were like, hey, David, you're gonna have to do the video game part yourself, though we are more than happy to print the paper and help you with this thing. And in fact, David didn't have the finance to make this. I mean, this is really the big stepping stone. Making these kind of apps is expensive and complicated, especially if you can't do it yourself. And so Lucky Duck came on top of all of this because we could do it ourselves. And actually, we're the only publisher that could offer David, hey, David, you know what? I'll take care of it. I will make this tech. And I so little that I realized that even though I took care of it and paid for it, yet still paying him in the same way that I would pay a publisher, sorry, not publisher, but an author, and actually a bit even more because I felt so. It's actually the most well-paid author of all board game because I wanted this game so bad. I was like, here is a percentage and on top I paid for all of it. It still was a good thing for us because all this technology right now we can use it. And as really transformed the company itself. But anyway, and we spent a year. The first story of Chronicles of Crime actually though was really cheesy. It was really bad. There was no intrigue. And so when we signed the game, we said, okay, David, let's put some serious drama here. Like let's not do a little case of something as a guy poisoned by mistake. Let's just put some And so he listened to me, and the first thing like child abduction, big corporation. That's it. That's what we want. That's the level of drama we want, right? And so we spent almost a year redeveloping from scratch. We bought actually the code of his prototype. We never used it. We just wanted to buy it out so that the programmer were helping make that prototype get something out of this, because we wanted to program ourselves. So everybody kind of get paid on this, but we program everything from scratch. And our luck is that I brought into Lucky Duck my CTO. His name is Martin Mouchard. He is the best programmer. And I say that as a programmer and as a guy who has owned 2 video game companies in his lifetime. He is the best programmer I've ever worked with. He came at Everyday Play as a programmer, became lead programmer, became CTO, became share owner. And when I moved to Lucky Duck, I was like, dudes, it looks like we're gonna make hybrid. I'm gonna give you share of the company. You have to come. This guy is incredible. And by himself, a single man put all it together, the tools, the app, and with such a AAA level of quality to it. This is, I owe so much for Martin. And this is, again, how much I love the team I work with. I've been so lucky to have this. And anyway, moving forward, a lot of work on the art decision, on the way we want it to look. And funny enough, the title Chronicles of Crime was made thanks to people on a forum. We still didn't know how to call the game. The initial name was QR Crime. And QR Crime doesn't sound right.
That's terrible.
That's so bad.
That's so bad. Cheesy. Oh my gosh.
God, it's so bad. So
it sounds like a gimmick game. Yeah.
So we went on a Facebook forum and said, hey guys, we have this game. It uses QR codes, crime solving, and we're looking for a title. Please, let's brainstorm. And we had 70 people on this thread, very active. I think it was the board game group on Facebook. And one of them was like, what about Chronicles of Crime? And people were like, oh, I like the sound of that. I was like, oh, really? Okay, because honestly, as a French guy, Chronicles of Crime, les Chroniques du Crime, the French, the literal translation was like, whoa, that doesn't sound great at all. But everybody seems to really enjoy it. And keep in mind, I'm French, so making an English title, I really rely on people because my cultural base is not helping here. But everybody seems to really love it. And to a point, it's like it has to be it. Like, look, everybody's like, oh yeah. And so that's how the name was born, Chronicles of Crime, out of a forum brainstorm. And then, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a journey. And so then now it's basically, I mean, for sure, it feels like at this point, I don't know if you can put a percentage on it, but as an outsider, it feels like, a good 70% of Lucky Duck Games is this kind of stuff, like this kind of app-driven crime adventure.
Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what, actually, just to finish that journey, because it's an important thing. October 2018, the game Chronicles of Crime is about to retail release, and we have a company meeting. We're only half our size. I think we were 15 people at the time. And we agree at that time that we are doing a full 180 away from video games and trying to become the world leader in hybrid narrative board game. We realize at the sunset of launching the game in retail, with so much buzz around this game, that the fact that we came from the video game industry, it's not so much about the fact that we knew CEOs, the CEO of Fruit Ninja, the CEO of whatever other board game that could give us their IP to turn them into board game. That was not the key. The key was the fact that we came from the video game industry and we knew how to make video games. And we'd realize almost by surprise that the rest of this industry does not know how to make video games. And that beside Fantasy Flight game, we find ourselves in the capacity to manufacture, logistic, and distribution of physical stuff, and also have 15 years, 20 years, maybe 40 years cumulative between Martin and I into video game stuff. And that we find ourselves with this, like, that's it. That's what we need to do. And so since 2018, moving through 2019, that's where I started to grow the studio. And we already created the studio. I hired our first full-time game designer, then our first full-time game writer. And the game that came out of this complete pivot was Destinies. Destinies was the first game fully created internally, very challenging, very disruptive, story-driven, hybrid, competitive game. Everything that FFG has done so far has been cooperative. And for some good reason, it's much harder to make it competitive, because when you're competitive and when it's not your turn, and there's a narrative being unrolled, and this narrative has nothing to do with your personal mission, you may just check out and get your phone in your hand and kind of what happened, and like having horrible downtime. And so there was a lot of learning here, how to have truly intrinsic stories and sub-narratives, so that when it's not your turn, you're still very curious to what the guy is going to uncover, and if you can learn something for your own submission, that's secret. And but yeah, and so and this is how by end of 2020, that now we have a team of 15 people, that I could feel reliably confident that to hire 3 full-time writers. Like, what company has 3 full-time writers as a publisher? You don't do that. You hire a freelancer, right? This is the way a publisher works. But we needed those full-time people because there's so much knowledge in the usage of our tool and the way to write those stories that we had to capitalize and to do this. And so 2021 for us is we're already going full speed with this. We're going to release, and actually I'm announcing something that nobody knows about here. So we're trying to release some kind of a Chronicles of Crime Junior. It's not going to be called like this, but the idea is to take this game system and make it a 7+ game. David Sicurel is working on it now for 1.5 years, and it will be mature for Christmas next year. We're going to release, obviously there is Chronicles of Crime Millennium. 2400 will be our Christmas release next year. But we have another big IP, which I can share with you today because it's about to be announced, but we're going to do Sherlock Holmes from the BBC. And we have a really exciting project that I'm working on with the Van Ryder people, a co-publishing, which nothing is announced yet, and I can't share anything else right now. But I'm really excited to basically, it's the next step for us, which is to open our digital narrative tools to other publishers who have this amazing capacity of writing. And Evan from Van Ryder, they're the people who created Detective City of Angels. There's another one, which is this Hostage Negotiator. I mean, some incredible writing. So as you can see, we're really going full speed ahead with trying to really become the reference in hybrid board game. And the only exception to all this has been Kingdom Rush, because October 2018, Kingdom Rush was already signed and you had to do it. And February 2019, we released this Kickstarter. And actually, it's the first one that make us reach $1 million. So it was no small achievement for us. So even though I have not signed any video games since October 2018, but we still have Kingdom Rush and possibly another Kingdom Rush campaign to come up in 2021. So anyway, but beside Kingdom Rush, which is the small exception, everything else we're doing internally is hybrid, narrative, and internal.
And if someone wanted to join the team, then for your particular situation, is there any possible openings?
Yeah, actually, unfortunately, it may in 2021. As of now, no. But there is. It's probably we're looking at opening some writing or game designer position probably mid 2021. I have to say though is that we have been looking for people living in Poland. It's just because this level of creative work is so much more efficient when you can meet physically rather than online. So if you are willing to travel to Warsaw or Krakow in Poland, which are two absolutely lovely cities, then we can talk. Absolutely, yeah. There's definitely going to be more opening in 2021.
And Matthew says Prague is pretty close.
It is pretty close, yeah, actually.
So there's a few people from Leipzig and Finland, kind of, who sound quite interested. But,
thank you for reading.
Are you still taking pitches?
So it's a great question. We are, but you need to be aware that unless it has an hybrid component, it really have to. It's in that 1 to 5% ratio of succeeding. We have been 95% saying no right now because we're so focused on this hybrid thing that, and actually we even considered closing submission completely because it still takes a lot of time. When you receive submission, you want to take it seriously. You want to read the rule book and kind of investigate before you have to play the board game if it's something for us or not. So Wrocław is lovely, yeah. And so, but so it's unfortunately, yes, you can, but the approving ratio right now has been extremely low. We have been mostly focusing on internal stuff, unless, however, you will be welcome wide open with arm with anything narrative. Like, we are desperate for narrative games. And for some reason, they just, even though we keep telling everywhere, we're looking for narrative games, they don't come our door. We want narrative games. So if you have a narrative game, please come in. And if you have a narrative game, you'll be sure that someone in our team will want to play test your game. And hybrid, if you have something hybrid, we definitely want to chat with you, look at your game. And sometimes hybrid doesn't mean you need to have an app ready. For example, when we play tested Destinies, we just have this Excel sheet and someone just pretend to be the app, right? What do you do now? Well, I'll do that. Well, the app shows you that now you read the text for us. So you can design a hybrid board game without any programmer in your life to program the app. You just play the app yourself as the game designer and just extract yourself from the play itself and just simulate as what happened when someone click on the screen. So that's an efficient way to do that.
A few people in the chat apparently working on stuff that might turn into something. So you might have a few pitches in a few months. Vincent
at luckydoggames.com. I swear, you have something, please send it. You never know, but we are I would love to look at your game if it's either hybrid or narrative, or it's even more if it's both.
I think that we've had a brilliant chat, and thank you so much for coming on. It's about time to start wrapping up and winding down and getting to any final questions that anyone has. Please get it in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to say. We've chatted about like how many people are involved and like everyone that's in your team and like all these amazing people. Oh, sorry, I wanted that to show when I said all these amazing people. I don't know all these people's names, but you know, just a reminder that there are excellent people around for sure. And not to mention all the demonstrators like Jason that you mentioned, and obviously Paul Grogan. But we had a nice chat about this, and I suggested at the start that we might talk about you know, app-driven games, which we did a tiny bit, and you know, about unique selling points, which it feels like for sure an IP can be a really good thing at bringing people in. I'm sure that Fruit Ninja did a little bit better because it was freaking Fruit Ninja. Do you know what I mean? Because whereas Zombie Tsunami, I'll tell you afterwards my opinions, but I actually downloaded the app game yesterday just because I was about to talk to you, and I was, you know what, I'm actually curious what this app game is all about. And anyway, I'll talk to you privately maybe about that. But yeah, it's like, do you have, if I ask you to talk about the future in the next 5 to 10 years, do you think that we're going to get more people doing app-driven games? How do you see the industry going?
Well, here's the thing. The harsh reality, though, is the reason why we don't have that many app-driven games out there is because it's also a very risky bet. My view is that this app industry, the board game industry renaissance is based as a side effect of this. It really, I think this is the main, because this drove sensation of connection but isolation. And also reintroduce gaming, like my mother plays, even though she doesn't think she's a player. Even though she plays tons of mobile games, but she doesn't think she's a player. Though it invigorated the accessibility of gaming in general, and both of those combined for me was this need of detaching from the device and spending more time physically. And you know what? I have loved this little game. Why don't we spend actual gaming together? And this. So when you say, "Hey, you're gonna need to have this on the table," there's a bit of a I don't know about that. You know, like it sounds a bit scary because I want to step away. So the device has to bring something truly remarkable. It cannot just be a gadget to count points. It cannot be just a thing that just count the time, all those things. Then just don't do an app. And if the answer to the question, can I play your game without the app as well? If you say yes, then why the heck do you have an app? Don't even bother. And so I think that some of the success we've had with Chronicles of Crime and some of the game we're about to release, and Destiny, for example, is that the app is truly the foundation and brings something to the game design that could not be done through a book. For the fluidity of the way the text is brought, but also from the game design, where, for example, in Chronicles of Crime, we detect after, I don't know, 30 action that you still haven't found a clue in the first scene, then we know you're going to be stuck. And therefore, that's where we trigger, as a game design, a phone call from the agent as you've done a sloppy job on the crime scene. Here is, we found this, go to talk to this guy in location M. And what you don't know here is that through this phone call, actually, it was a catch-up. It was a game design intention to make sure you're not stuck. And this, we can't do it with paper. And so when the app bring this level of magic, just like and I really compare it to a magic trick. Like when you turn to a magician hands, you feel like you're picking the card you want, and you feel you're putting it down, and you're experiencing this experience with your eyes, and you feel, yet there's so many little things that are done for this to have the outcome the magician had. And as a way, he's a game designer, and I feel game designer have the same objective, right? We want to make people feel in a certain way. So when you have tools that ensure that when things derail, you can put them back on rail, this is really interesting. This is really just adding to this. And so I think there will be more hybrid game, though there will also be a lot of failure in that genre, because it is a very complex one. Like, for example, I've been really holding on to go for augmented reality. It's very sexy, augmented reality. So augmented reality is that you have a photo and we put on top of the photo something. In Chronicles of Crime, we have what's called virtual reality, which is it's a completely virtual scene. You don't see reality, but augmented reality sees an actual camera, and on top of that, you have something. And this, for me, is really hard to use without just being a gadget. Like, why? Why do you need AR? So which is why actually we have specifically a narrative focus with hybrid, because we know as soon as we get out of this zone, it is a lot more risky. It is a lot more complicated. It is a lot more complex, and maybe the hybrid part doesn't serve the game as well as it should. Though there are some extremely good examples of this. There's a game called Cosmopolite from a French publisher that is absolutely fantastic, where you are a waiter. Basically, you manage a restaurant, and there's one person with a headphone connected and he hears the orders from people, but they are from different countries and they speak with weird gibbering. And all the other players, they have cards and they need to reread what I say out loud. It's fantastic. Casual game, doing extremely well in France. And it's not a narrative game. That is one of the rare exceptions of a very good use of an app into a board game.
And it's interesting for sure, because we've stopped fee for, there's some Reiner Knizia games back, I believe, from the 80s, possibly, that actually have, an electronic component. Don't quote me on the date, but, there's, little children's games that Knizia made with, okay, this is going to be a different, it's actually like not a murder mystery because it's aimed at children, but who stole this? What items do we need to rescue this? And it's got little computer and randomization, but it's all hidden from you. And there's a lot of reluctance to integrate a screen. And I'm going to say, yeah, sometimes I don't want to have a screen all the time in the board games, but for sure it's kind of coming in and saying, okay, what do you want? And having that opportunity to do these things and have this new experience that can only happen this way. It's almost like, how do we get the best of both possible worlds? Like, that could be for sure a conversation in and of itself. And the truth is that with the output of Lucky Duck Games, there is no one better placed. You are in a very unique position. And this isn't just me blowing smoke up your behind. It's just the way that it is. And so we have one final question that Dina asked, which is talking about a game that you might love. I'll let you pick one game if you want to say something, maybe something that you didn't publish.
Yeah.
What game?
Actually, I'll tell you what, the game that is my go-to game when I don't want to learn anything and I want to spend it with my kids, keep in mind I have 3 children. So this chilling out for me has to involve my kids, is actually Unlock. And Unlock is just one of those games where I don't have to teach anything to my children. We sit down and we just start to take and the kids already know the system already. They love it. They sort the cards. I don't have to teach them anything. And we go, there's a very light narrative to it. It's puzzle. I can coach them gently when they are stuck. There is actually a device talking about a hybrid game. That's just a fantastic hybrid game using the app in the proper way, which is this is the kind of game, if there was a book, you can spoil yourself. Like, this is easy. Like, on the same page, there's multiple things. You're trying to not look at anything else. What is this? So here, they use an app as a perfect way. It's very light, but it's irreplaceable. And I like it because actually it is something, when I read the word to chill out, is because I don't have to read a rule book. We read rule book all the time. Because we didn't talk about it. Lucky Duck, beside the studio, does a lot of licensing. For example, in France, we have released 15 games on top of the game we have. So we are done near and far, above and below. We're doing Calico, we're doing the Isle of Cats. All those games are coming to French market. But so to sign 15 games, we have to try 100. And so I'm constantly reading rulebooks. So my chill out board game is one that I don't have to read. I can just sit down and enjoy the experience that it comes to me with my children. Unlock it is.
May I ask, what age are your children? That's the final question for me.
What's that?
What age are your children?
They are 7 and 10.
Okay. Oh, you have twins?
No. So 7 years old, 10 years old, and one that's 4 months old. So
okay.
My daughter is 10, my son is 7, and my new son is 4 months old. Yeah, I don't know what we're thinking about, but it is the easiest of all the 3 children we have right now. So,
and yeah, for those who didn't hear it, it is Unlock. And so I want to say thank you so much. It has been a wonderful chat, and we've chatted about the internet. We chatted about Paris and traveling, and how you started up your company when you were 19 years old, and making like 100 people in a company. That sounds amazing. And then everyday play, and then Lucky Duck Games. We talked a little bit about what this duck actually means. We talked about what publishing means, which is all about making that initial choice of choosing the best title, of doing those negotiations with those manufacturers, having how important the project managers are for the manufacturers, having like reaching into the modern day glory where you've got like 30 containers coming up, like full of like 3,000 games each, and like marketing, how it has to continue. Yes, you sometimes stop making a game because, hey, it's not done well. And I really love the story about the app-driven games when you release it for free and just check about the engagements within a very small target audience. And if a game is doing well, then presumably that one game, it will have to be continually updated and marketed. And then talking about those magazines ads, the online ads, the reviewers, the distribution, the cash flow management. He talks about how important Tom Vassell was, about giving up on Fruit Ninja and Zombie Tsunami and Jetpack Joyride. It's just, okay, that's in the past. And being critical of yourself. How can we do better? Always trying to strive for as good as we possibly can. And then he shared the new announcements, I guess, of Chronicles of Crime Junior. So thank you very much for that. And it's exciting to see what might come of that, or indeed what themes it will have, and how you'll turn that story into something suitable for 7-year-olds. And, appreciating Unlock and talking about pitching games. And now I guess this is part of a publisher's lifetime, that at a certain point it's like, okay, this is what we're making. We want to focus on this one thing, and we're not going to do other things. And so, yeah, I'm going to say thank you, everyone, for joining in this conversation. You have been truly wonderful audience, and most importantly, thank you very much, Vincent, for joining and sharing all this brilliant information. So
it was my greatest pleasure, Bez. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, genuinely. I've got a couple of things in here I'm going to share. Sorry about this. If you go into the chat, then you will find all the Twitter and the main website. There is also Instagram and stuff. You can just look for it. And Vince also shared their email address, vincent@lucky.games.
Actually, our Twitter has changed. Actually, it's now Lucky Duck Games. I managed to get the full Lucky Duck Games, which was used by a company that died. So,
congratulations! Do you have LDuck Games? Do you?
Yeah, I changed
a new
game
account for the old one.
Yeah, I sent it into this. Yeah, so this is.
Sorry about that.
This is now our new handle. I'm not even sure LDuck Game works anymore.
Because what you can do is have an old account, kind of throwaway account just for LDuck Games, and then say now known as this other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thank you, everyone. And we've got, yeah, thank you everyone for watching. And yes, I hope that you have a wonderful day. If you want to check out Vincent, that's the links. If you want to check out me, I am, of course, stuffbabez.com, stuffbez.bitcartel.com, twitter.com/stuffbez, instagram.com/stuffbez, twitch.tv/stuffbez. I am streaming every day at 10 a.m. UK time and 8 p.m. UK time on Tuesdays if you want to join in to play along. And youtube.com/stuffbybez is the old shows, and join the Discord. And yeah, massive thank you, everyone. And as we close up, I want to ask, over to you. What are you up to? You can share anything if you want to. So is there anything that you're looking forward to? Anything that you want to say, okay, I'm going to try and get this done over the next day. I'm putting it out there. I'm going to personally be doing a little bit of rules writing. I know I said that yesterday, but, you know... Anyway, so that is what I'm going to aim to do, and I am also hoping that I get to hang out with someone lovely tonight. That, to be fair, like, we're always basically sharing the same space, but we might be playing a couple of games, so that is what I'm looking forward to. So tell me, what are you looking up to? Vincent, you go first.
Yeah, so actually, my parents-in-law are in town. They arrived today, and so I look forward to spend some time with them. I actually really enjoy those people, and and I also that's what I look forward to today. I just wanted to thank you, everybody. It's very heartwarming to see that you enjoy this conversation. It's actually quite rare to get a place to chat about what we do behind the scene. We often talk more from a, hey, this is our game, etc. But we rarely talk about the way things are done. So thank you for providing this platform, Bez, inviting me to be able to share my passion for publishing game rather than making them. And thank you so much for everybody who came here and had some great questions and seemed to have enjoyed what we had to talk about. So that's it for me.
No, thank you very much. And Jay is going to just enjoy some lunch and go for a walk. That sounds like a lovely thing. Dina, congratulations that you've got a new job with Green Meadow Games. So playing some games and more trashy prototype testing tomorrow.
They are the best. They are the best.
Alex is finishing an update for a roll and write. That sounds lovely. And lots of love to Xate. I guess, yeah, today is, I think, officially that US holiday, Thanksgiving, sorry. That wasn't me playing around. I was genuinely, I have a terrible memory for word recall. But yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope that you enjoy Loozapalooza, and I hope that you're able to find some people to share today with, even virtually, because I know it's a difficult time for you right now. People just enjoying going into the sun. And Cheap Games is going to bed because it's 1 a.m. in New Zealand.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Cheap, for sticking around.
And
good night.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, Sates, it's a really harsh thing to go through. And but for my next streams tomorrow at Friday, I'm going to start up a regular Friendly Friday forum where it's no topic, just anyone can join in. I will literally share the link for you to join me on screen, as long as I know your name and I know that you're a cool person, and if you're one of those people, oh, am I actually cool? Yes, you are. Say it's none of this, oh, I'm not a nice person. Yes, you are, and you can join me if you want. If you want to be in chat, that's also totally fine. Anyway, look at that thing. Share, spread the word. And we are going to, if you're on Twitch, if you're watching this live, as is traditional, I am going to raid Idle Michael if you want to hear someone doing a bit more chat about making games. And I will say, let me put, yeah, that is it. I don't have anything left to say. And so, do you have any more closing comments?
On my side, that is it. Thank you so much, Bez. Really, really, really appreciate this conversation.
Well, in that case, bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye, guys. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you,
This
Bez.
is the end of the show. And bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye.
Bye bye.